Good morning, everyone. My name is Madeline Maseda Heidi, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent here at the American School of Bombay. A smile is a powerful way to communicate. Now think about not being able to smile, not being able to communicate through a smile. Bill and Kathy Magee, co-founders of Operation Smile, have spent their lives working with individuals whose facial deformities make smiling difficult or impossible. Bill is a plastic and craniofacial surgeon, and Kathy is a nurse and a clinical social worker. They've received numerous awards and honors for their work, including the Distinguished Service Award from the American Society of Plastic Surgeons, the Servants of Peace Award, and the Commonwealth Award of Distinguished Service. Just this past November, they were named one of America's best leaders by U.S. News and World Report and the Center for Public Leadership at Harvard University School of Government. In 1982, a long time ago, they traveled to the Philippines as medical volunteers. Many of you know that I grew up in the Philippines, and it was not unusual in my growing up years to see people with facial deformities and other kinds of physical disabilities. It is typical, often, for people to have a strong reaction to the disfigurement of people with facial deformities. Bill and Kathy Magee chose to help these young people have a chance at a normal life. So they joined a medical team in 1982 and successfully operated on 40 children with cleft lips, cleft palates, and other facial deformities. Unfortunately, they had to turn away hundreds of other children. This painful experience caused the couple to found Operation Smile, which is now a worldwide children's medical charity with programs in 51 partner countries. Operation Smile provides cleft lip and palate repair surgeries to children worldwide and assists countries in reaching self-sufficiency with safe and effective surgeries, and they also work to reduce the occurrence of cleft lips and cleft palates. Now, in its 27th year, Operation Smile has provided reconstructive surgery for over 140,000 children and young adults with cleft lips, cleft palates, and other facial deformities, giving them a new smile and a chance at life. When Bill and Kathy's children were growing up, they all sat around the kitchen table and talked about their work. Today, each of their children, and even their grandchildren, are part of their great effort in various ways. Last night I was imagining this picture of their family, any family really, sitting around a kitchen table and talking together about something that they deeply care about, learning from one another and listening to one another, something all of us have experienced. I'd like to think that this event is a little bit like that, maybe in a more of a global sense. We are a community gathered together to sit around a global kitchen table to listen as Bill and Kathy share their story of having dreams that would benefit the lives of others. Please welcome Bill and Kathy Magee.
We'll hope to share, you hear me? Share a few of those experiences along the way. It's been 27 years now from that first moment. And what we both say in life, there are no ordinary moments. Most of us never know when those moments arrive. So open your minds and be ready for that moment that exposes you to the world as it did to us. We were asked to go to the Philippines 27 years ago, and my husband being a plastic surgeon, I having a nursing background, said yes. We never thought of why not, but how we were going to do it. And we took our oldest daughter just to take her out of the house while my parents took care of the other 4 children. And from that moment on, we never turned back to turn a child away. We all have gifts. We all have skills, and Operation Smile is an amalgamation of gifts and skills of others to put our teams together and make the world a better place to live. So now we are in 51 countries. 140,000 surgeries later, and thousands of more to go. So we ask you to think about your skills, and we'll share a few of those opportunities and learning skills that we followed along the way. We'll share those with you.
Thank you very much. It really is a pleasure to be here with you and to be able to share about Operation Smile with you, because there are so many different ways that one could take a look at a medical mission. So bottom line is, I think that what we have to do is to say to ourselves, first of all, are you willing to take the risk? Risk is huge in life, and anybody who has created anything has to be willing to go at risk, because sometimes you don't know the answer. You can think that you know where it's going to go, but you have to believe where it's going to go enough that you undertake it to prove that your vision is correct. And if you're not willing to take that risk, then the project would never start. Let me just give you a little bit of an example of that. This is a picture many, many years ago of Kath and 4 of our children. Here we are in Paris. I was in a residency training program in Norfolk, Virginia. The gentleman, the older one that you see over on the left or on the right of your screen, it's a fellow named Dr. Paul Tessier. He was a world-famous craniofacial surgeon. He was the very first person who really started taking the skull and separating it from the brain and then remaking the skull for children. And I wanted to go study with him. Now that seemed like an impossible task. The most famous plastic surgeon in the world, I am nothing. Why would he ever want to take me? And besides that, now we have 4 kids, 5 and under, and how we go. Well, first of all, if you don't have a spouse that's willing to say, sure, let's do it, you're not going to go. Second of all, if you don't have the confidence that you can control those 4 little rascals, then you're not going to go. Third of all, you have to have the money. But how are you going to get it? So let me just tell you a quick short story about that. I was looking around for the money, applied for a Hayes Fulbright grant. On a Tuesday, I found out that I had gotten that, $5,000. I had also written to a friend of a philanthropist and asked him if he could ask the anonymous philanthropist if he could donate money to me. On a Friday morning at the hospital that I was working, I received a call from the friend that said, I sent your letter off to the philanthropist. On a Friday afternoon, at 5 o'clock at night, I was paged and said, would you go to room 517 at Norfolk General Hospital? There is a lady who was injured in an automobile accident, broke her cheekbone. You need to go see her. I walked into the door, introduced myself as Dr. Magee, and there was a stout man sitting over in the corner. He said, Dr. Magee, I know you. I just received a letter about you today asking if I could help you to go study in Paris. He said, tell me how much you think you need. I told him I thought I needed about $5,000, that I'd just gotten $5,000 from the Hayes Fulbright people. He said, you know, Paris is a lot more expensive than you think. I'll write you a check for $10,000 tomorrow. Now, little did I know that his wife would be injured in an automobile accident, that he was from Midland, Texas, on his way to Saudi Arabia to consummate an oil deal, and just happened to be there at that moment in time. But if I had never written the letter, if I hadn't taken the risk, I would have never had that opportunity. Life, there are no ordinary moments. Most of us never really recognize the most significant moments of our lives when they're happening. I can tell you as time went on and we went to the Philippines, Naga City, Legazpi, Mayon volcano, one of the most perfect volcanic peaks in the world. Every time that we took out our camera, beautiful kids would be in front of us. Now I would have come back to the United States and someone would have said, well, what's a developing country like? I would have said, it's beautiful. What about the poverty? Well, there's poverty everywhere. But what I had a chance to see with Kath and our 13-year-old daughter at the time was not just the beauty, but was literally 300 kids and their families who came to see us. Every single one of those parents tugging at our sleeve, begging us to take care of their child. every one of those children with a gaping hole in the lip and roof of their mouth. They couldn't eat. They couldn't speak an intelligible word. And yet we were able to only take care of 40 kids that first year. Had to watch as over 250 kids were turned away. And I will never forget, there was a lady who came up to us with a ripe basket of bananas cradled in her arms. Her daughter at her side, maybe 8 years old, with a big hole in her lip. She said, "I would like to give these to you as a gift. It's the only thing I have to give. A gift for trying to take care of my daughter, even though we had turned her daughter away." Tears coming down her cheeks, ultimately tears coming down our cheeks. All we could say was maybe next year, but there was no next year. The group we were with wasn't planning on going back. Lady who was the head of the hospital said, "Someday if you can come back 5 or 10 years from now, please come back. These kids will still be here. They'll just be 5 or 10 years older." And so Kath and I said, "Well, why don't we get together a group of our friends? We'll ask them to come over. We'll take care of those 250 kids. The world will be wonderful. Our guilt will be ridden. Then we'll just go back to our lives as usual." That is exactly how Operation Smile began. Reason leads to conclusions. It's emotion that leads to action. And no one should ever discount that. Because it's your emotion that drives you. It's your passion that drives you. And whatever you're passionate about, you will succeed at, as long as you're willing to work hard enough to do it. That moment changed the way that we looked, because we started to understand that in as little as 45 minutes, we could change the life of a child. And in changing that child's life, we could change the life of their mom and their dad, their brothers, their sisters, their village, and ultimately change the way each of us look at one another in our world. The power of that child is incredible. And when you take that child from hopelessness to possibility, you are talking about compassion, love, concern, care of our fellow man, which are incredibly important concepts that all of us always should incorporate in our lives. But let me tell you about a 35-year-old man who came in to see me. He's 35 years old, never been to school, couldn't read, couldn't write. His mom brought him in. I took care of him literally on a stretcher in a hall under the light of day with some Novocaine like you would in a dental office. And 45 minutes later, I walked him back to his mom. She said, "That's not my son." I said, "Well, sure, it's your son." She said, "No, it's not." So I took a mirror out of my pocket that I had, and I showed it to him. And as he looked at it, he began to cry. I've often thought, what would it be like to go through 35 years of your life and to never whistle? What would it be like to go through 35 years of your life and to never feel the gentleness of a kiss because someone didn't have 45 minutes for you? It's unconscionable. And yet, I've often thought after that, well, what if you and I were to spin a roulette wheel again today? What would be the chances we'd be born who we are and where we are? Or what would be the chances we'd be born in a rice paddy, planting rice and plowing fields? The overwhelming odds is we'd be in that rice paddy. And so I think at some point in time in your life, you have to say to yourself, well, why was I given this privilege? And the only reason that I can think of is to use the skills and the talents that we have to serve others. And I'm here to guarantee you that that won't detract from anything you want to do in life. We live in a nice home, we drive a nice car, we take nice vacations, educated 5 great kids. And we still had time to do this. You can serve others without ever hurting yourself. The big key is you have to do it for the right reason. You have to do it because it's the right thing to do. Well, let's just take another step and look about what are the other things that we've learned along the way. And probably the most important thing is humility. Humility is incredibly, incredibly important. Let me tell you that maybe through a story of an experience that I've had. There was an opportunity that my wife and 2 other individuals from Chicago had a chance to visit Eldoret, Kenya. They got there at dusk one evening, and there was a lady who was kind of wandering around, didn't know where she was going, with a baby that she had a little towel over her head. And so as my wife and these 2 individuals walked up to her and said, "Can we help you?" She said, Yes, and she took the blanket off this little baby's head, and there was this little 5-day-old with her face just totally split up the middle. They were all in tears and knew that there was nothing that they could do in this setting to take care of that child. The problem was too big. So the people that they were with promised to leave a couple of $1,000s to keep that child healthy until they could bring them to Norfolk, Virginia, where we live, to get the child taken care of. But the story really doesn't start there. The story starts when our second child, a son, was at the University of Maryland Dental School. He had a buddy named Pete Coletti. Pete Coletti was this gregarious, wonderful kid from New York in every single way that there was. And one evening, I got a call from Pete Coletti, who was now a dentist in Chicago. He called me on the phone. He says, "Hey, Doc, I got this lady in a chair, and I'm working her. I'm telling her about Operation Smile. I hope soon she'll be able to help us. By the way, she just won $186 million in the lottery." I said, "Thanks, Pete. Call me when the time is right." 2 weeks later, I get another call. "Hey, Doc, the time is right. You give her a call. Here's a phone number. She's waiting for your call." I said, "Thanks, Pete." I called this lady, got her on the phone. I said, "Sue, Bill Magee, Pete Coletti told me to give you a call. I'm a little embarrassed. If you want to hang up, it's okay." He said, "No." She said, "I wanted to talk to you." And so in the end, they went over to Eldoret, Kenya with my wife, and they were the two people with him. A year and a half later, that little kid that was seen here in Eldoret, Kenya, came to Norfolk, Virginia, with her wonderful, wonderful mom to see if surgery could get undertaken. 16-hour surgery that I had learned from this Dr. Tessier years ago in Paris. And at the end of that surgery, this little child is in the ICU. Her mom didn't even believe it was her, looked at a wristband to make sure it was her name. And sure enough, the two wonderful people who had donated the money were still right there side by side with her. But the incredible part about it is that she not only is a beautiful little girl right now, but who would have ever thought that when that started, that little girl would now be 7th in her class of 27 kids. Life has beauty. What we've got to do is to make sure everybody has a chance to fulfill that dream. And who is the hero in that? Surely a surgeon could say, "I did this." But the truth is he could have never done it without the anesthesiologist, who could have never done it without the pediatric intensivist, who could have never done it without the nurses, who could have never done it without the equipment that was at the hospital and a great hospital system, who could have never done it without all the supporting people along the way, including the Keyneses, who were able to give us the money. But it would have never happened if it wasn't for Pete Coletti, who took the first step. So no one person is ever the hero. And all of us have to recognize that we are good at what we do, but there are so many things we're not good at, and we need to surround ourselves with those people. Let me add by just jumping on that and saying that it's important for us, understanding that we do share our gifts. This was in Ethiopia. We went to 25 countries in 10 days for our 25th anniversary. Kath and I managed to make it to 8 of those during those 10 days, and Addis Ababa in Ethiopia was one of them, and met a family here, the older brother, 2 younger brothers, all with 2 younger ones with clefts. And as the story goes, the mother died the year before. The father disowned the children because they had clefts and felt they were a curse on the family. So the older brother brought them to the hospital, and as I met them on the 2nd-story landing of the hospital, this little boy on the right, he still had his spirit. But the older brother had totally lost it. He wore his baseball cap pulled down over his eyes and would never make contact with you. And so as I walked up to him, I said, "Shake my hand." And he limply shook my hand. I said, "No, squeeze my hand." After about 30 seconds, he finally squeezed my hand. I said, "Now look me in the eyes." And as he looked me in the eyes, his hand went limp. I said, no, let's get this all together. Look me in the eyes and squeeze my hand real firmly. And so after about another 30 seconds, we finally had that moved down. And then I said to him, "I can promise you tomorrow that we can fix your lip. What I can't promise you is that we can heal your spirit. You've got to do that." So let's all of us start looking at life differently. Let's understand that your cleft is your gift. You've been given the gift of a cleft lip, because forever you will be more sensitive to the needs of the people in your country and your village than the overwhelming majority of the people. It's up to you to decide how you're going to use your gift to help other people. So we'll make a promise to each other. I'll promise you we'll fix your lip if you promise me you'll use your gifts to help other people that surround you. And I think the reality is that every single one of us in this room has been given a gift. It's up to us to decide how we're going to use our gifts to serve others. And if we do that properly, we'll be more fulfilled and we'll help change the community around us. The last part of that, though, is it doesn't stop with you. You all need to be the ones to pass it on. So let's go back to the beginning around our dinner table. This is our 13-year-old daughter in the Philippines, Naga City with us, being my scrub nurse, carrying little babies back to their moms as a 13-year-old for 5 straight days, 16 hours a day. And we realized what an incredible power she had. That's why we started our student programs. That's why there are over 750 student programs now around our world. She's now 40 years old, the mother of 4 beautiful children, a great husband. And her oldest son, just about a year ago, traveled with us down to Nicaragua, where I scrubbed with them, and at surgery, he assisted me. One of the greatest gifts I've ever had in my life. Because the real issue is not what you do today, it's what you do tomorrow. So I can tell you that in the 27 years since Kath and I founded Operation Smile, we found that there are thousands of people who are all people should be. Selfless, kind, warm-hearted, full of generous impulses. It's these people who change our world. Without them, there would be no Operation Smile. It's but a mission in life, but a blessed mission indeed, to comfort the suffering, uplift the fallen, befriend the friendless. But it's difficult to put in only a few words. I guarantee you, for any of us who have known the compassion of a newfound friend's embrace or the gentle touch of a stranger's hand, but in their hearts would add, amen. Thank you.
Thank you. We have just time for 1 or 2 questions, so I'll just go ahead and ask a couple questions. The last bit was you were beginning to talk about students and the student program. We have, could all the students just raise your hand so we can see where you are? All right, we have a large number of students with us, middle school and high school students. Could you talk a little bit about what could students of this age group do to make a difference? I don't know. Or just use this. This is fine. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
As my husband said, we started with our own kids, and fact is, we didn't mention, we have been in India for the last 7 years. As you know, we've been around for 27, so we're really focused on what you all could do here. And we had 12 missions this year. We're on our way up to Assam, where the government says they have 35,000 kids with clefts, and they are really supporting us. So we could have you involved there. And on the mission, we have the high school students. We have a couple of high school students on every mission site, so we could have you join us on any one of these sites. And you teach primary health care, something that you take for granted. How do you take care of your teeth? What are the foods you need to eat to be nutritionally healthy. These children are not healthy, and we're seeing a lot of nutritional issues that are causing these clefts, along with a genetic problem. There's about 5 different ways their primary health care is taught, and it's in a skit form. So you get the kids involved and their families involved, and you teach while you're there. And you're out in the community, out in schools, teaching those schools and those communities what they can do and how for them to keep healthy. And then you're in orphanage. So it's very, very busy the whole time you're out. And we also have a burn mission locally here, right on the outskirts of Mumbai in January. So we would love to have the students involved with that in the same form. So, you know, they do raise money, but they also create awareness of this need, because you can change this child's life. This child is not eating. There's no palate on the roof of their mouth, so they can't eat. They're not speaking. They get a lot of hearing deformities from the palate being open, a lot of ear infections, and they have a facial deformity. You saw that child. They're not going anywhere. They never do anything any day of their lives, and we can change that. So you can actually be involved with changing children's lives with your skills. And we would love to have all of you join us on these mission sites.
Thank you very much, and we just want, on behalf of all of us here at ASB, it's been magnificent to have you. Thank you for your inspiration today.
Thank you very much.
Madeline, I just want to say one other thing, and we just totally forget about what we do every day, but Ajit, who is our executive director, helped us bring a child from the outskirts of Ahmedabad, very poor rural area. She had her lip taken care of, but we knew the palate wouldn't get taken care of. And so we arranged for her to go to Los Angeles. We got a few celebrities involved. And my son actually is the pediatric plastic surgeon who will be operating on her on Wednesday. So that's how we pass it on. So I know you all will have different thoughts if you get on these missions.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's amazing.